Hello again and welcome back to successWerk, the Success Factory. My name is, of course, Felix Becker, and I am your very own success coach on this journey we call life. Now, as part of the Love Forge program, we have to talk about authenticity and how to be authentic in our relationships. If you think about the three things that makes us successful in life, they are just as important as the air that we breathe. And they are simply authenticity, ingenuity, and resilience. So let's talk about authenticity, and let's first start by talking about 5 signs or symptoms that you are not embracing authenticity, that you are not able to show up as your authentic self in your relationship, or maybe your partner is not showing up as their authentic self in the relationship. The first sign is a sign of defensiveness. So when your partner tries to express their true feelings or concerns, and you are becoming defensive or even dismissive in the process, or vice versa, right? You are trying to show up as your authentic self and trying to express your own true feelings and emotions, and your partner is becoming defensive or dismissive. That is a sign that you're not able to embrace authenticity in your relationship, right? That defensiveness. The second sign or symptom that you're not able to show up as your authentic self in the relationship is that you're constantly criticizing your partner's thoughts or feelings or actions or emotions and making them feel unheard or invalidated. And again, it could be them doing that to you, right? You're trying to show up authentically and they're criticizing you for your thoughts and feelings and emotions and actions in the relationship. And now you are feeling unheard and unvalidated because you're not able to show up as your authentic self. So that's the second point, the second sign or symptom that you're not really embracing authenticity in your partnership. The third is you're avoiding discussing sensitive topics, right? Like emotions or feelings with your partner, or again, they are avoiding the same with you, which really just leads to unresolved issues and resentment and lack of communication, right? So you want to be able to have enough trust in your partner and they have enough trust in you so that you do not avoid discussing these heavy and emotional and deep topics. And they're sometimes difficult to talk about, don't get me wrong. But if you're not showing up as your authentic self, or you're not allowing your partner to show up as their authentic self, and you're not able to have these discussions, these communications, then that leads to a lack of trust, a lack of communication. And that's how relationships really break down. The fourth sign or symptom that you're not able to embrace true authenticity in your relationship is that it feels like a competition. You're constantly trying to one up each other, right? It's a competition rather than a collaboration. And that's not what relationships are supposed to be, right? Keep in mind, in life, collaboration beats competition all the time. So if you feel like you're competing with your partner or your partner feels they're competing with you, then you don't have a collaborative partnership. And then lastly, you're striving for an idealized version, a perfectionist version of yourself or your relationship, instead of embracing the really messy and imperfect reality that is life, right? Perfectionism is great, but it is not the reality. And so if you're really trying to be authentic, you have to embrace the imperfection, the messiness, right? All the faults that you may have or that your partner may have. And that's okay, right? We're all human. None of us are perfect. And in order for us to show up as our authentic selves, we have to embrace those imperfections. Now, those are signs or symptoms that you're lacking authenticity. You're not able to bring your authentic self, or your partner is not able to bring their authentic self to the relationship. But where is that coming from? Why is this happening? Well, let me share with you 5 reasons that I have come up with for why we're lacking this authenticity in our relationships. And then we'll talk about some of the things that we can do to change that, to create better relationships, to rekindle our intimacy, to refoster that relationship into something much better. So, uh, one of the first reasons that we don't embrace authenticity is simply a fear of rejection, a fear of loss. We're afraid that our partner will reject us for not being the person that we think we want them to be, right? Or we want them to think we are. So instead of showing up as our authentic self and being true to ourselves and embracing ourselves, we show up as an idealized version or a different version of ourselves because we fear our partner doesn't like the real us. And that fear of rejection is real. Now, that could be you, that could be your partner, it could be either one of you, it could be both of you for all that matters, right? But the true magic lies in being yourself. I have lived my life in a lot of my previous relationships trying to pretend to be someone I am not. And I can tell you 100% of the time it leads to failure because you are, you're living a lie. You're living a lie. And so you don't want that. You want to be able to live yourself, live your life authentically and to be true to yourself, to your core values, to who you are, uh, to your ethics, right? To your morals, to what you stand for as a person in this life. Okay. The other reason that we fail to embrace authenticity in our relationship is a need for control, right? We feel like we need to control the relationship again through that perfectionist or idealized version of ourselves. And only by being an idealized or perfectionist version that we may have gotten the idea from a movie or a TV show, right, where everything is happy and everything works out just fine at the end of the day. We pretend we can be that idealized version instead of recognizing that life is messy and life is imperfect and nobody is perfect and we all have flaws, we all fail at things. And in order to control that relationship, we pretend again to be someone else. Of course, it'd be remiss to mention past traumas, right? Our past experiences with other relationships, whether that's with romantic partners or even our parents, right? That's the first relationship we all grow up with, both as a child to our parents, but also witnessing the relationship our parents have with each other. And so all these traumatic experiences over time can make us hesitant and vulnerable to be authentic in our relationships because, again, of that fear of rejection or fear of failure. So we don't want the past to control our present or our future. We want the past, have an influence on who we are today, right? We are who we are based on the experiences that we've had, but we don't want the past to control what it is that we're doing today to create a better tomorrow for ourselves. So your past is your past, it's done, there's nothing you can do about it, but what you can do something about is what you're doing today to create a better tomorrow for yourself. And that can absolutely be influenced by your past experiences, by some traumatic events you may have had. But you don't want that to control your life because it limits you. It absolutely limits you in your ability to grow personally, grow together in your relationship. Now, coming back even to the movies and the TV shows that I mentioned, there's some societal pressure, right? There's some external pressures on us, or at least that we perceive are there. They may not be real, but we perceive these external pressures because of the media, right? Movies, television, social media, what we see other couples go through on social media. These idealized versions of a perfect relationship that in reality don't exist for anybody, right? But these societal pressures make us, again, create these imperfect versions of ourselves in order to create an idealized version that doesn't exist. And that results in failure to embrace our authentic selves, being true to ourselves, standing up for who we are, not just as a person individually, but also as a person in the relationship. So we don't want to give in to external pressures. We only want to give in to internal pressures, right? We want to have an internal locus of control over our lives and our relationship. Now, with all of that, of course, trying to have that internal locus of control, right? Instead of having that external pressure on us, we need to be aware of who we are. If we don't fully understand who we are, then how can we convince others who we are, what we stand for, right? How can others believe in who we are and what we stand for if we don't even understand that ourselves? So we have to have a certain amount of self-awareness, and that is lacking for many people. And without that self-awareness, you cannot show up as your authentic self because you simply don't know who that person is. And so that's the last and fifth reason that I'm going to share with you today, is a lack of self-awareness. And so working with you individually is an important part of the Love Forge program in order to build up that individuality, that self-awareness, that recognition of who you are as a person individually and as a person in the relationship. That's why the Love Forge program is so much different than marriage counseling, right? I've been through marriage counseling, but what does marriage counseling really do? It works on you together as a partnership, right? And it tries to fix the things that are broken. Well, some of the things can be fixed, some of the things can't be fixed, but it starts with you individually. And that's why in Love Forge, I work with you, I work with your partner, both on an individual level before we start working together on the things that are happening in the relationship, right? Because it takes you, it takes them, it takes both of you to have a thriving and growing and strong and positive and supportive relationship. So, what are some things that you can do though today, right? Other than signing up for Love Forge, what are some things you can do today in order to start embracing this authenticity in your relationship so that you can start to rebuild things? You can regrow your partnership. You can rekindle that intimacy. So coming back to that self-awareness piece, right? A little bit. The first thing we have to practice is self-compassion. We have to treat ourselves individually with kindness and compassion and respect. Just as we would a close friend. You know, it's one of the most interesting things to me in the world. We are the harshest critics of ourselves, right? We say things to ourselves that we would never say to a partner, a loved one of our children, or even a close friend, right? We are the harshest critics of ourselves. And it all starts with you. Because if you don't function, if you don't work out, if you don't show up, then what else is there, right? Nothing else matters. It begins with you. So you have to start practicing that self-compassion. Take care of yourself. Take care of your mental, emotional, and physical needs, wants, and desires in order to start embracing the relationship and start growing it. But you got to start with yourself because that's where everything in life begins. And so what you can do with that is use I statements. Okay, so when you're in a relationship, when you're in a discussion with your partner, when you're communicating, you should say things like, honey, I feel like this. I had this thought. My emotions seem to be that, right? Using I statements brings the focus on you instead of the accusative, which is you did this, you did that, you say things, right? Those are things that are not going to bring you closer together. But if in order for you to embrace that authenticity, you have to know who you are, understand where you're coming from, and then reveal that to your partner through these I statements, okay? So we start by embracing authenticity. Start by having self-compassion for ourselves, having that love and respect for ourselves, and then we share that with our partner through these I statements. Okay, so I am feeling unheard. I am feeling unwelcome. I am feeling like I'm walking on eggshells around here. Okay. And then in response to that, you have to listen actively to what your partner says, right? You have to listen actively to how your partner responds to these I statements. Okay, what are their thoughts? What are their feelings? What are their responses to all the things that you are now sharing with them authentically? Okay, and it comes back to so many things that I've said. Active listening is so key in a relationship. It is not just about the words that people are saying. It's about what's in between the lines as well. What are their thoughts? What are their feelings? What are their emotions? Where is all of this coming from? Right? Put yourselves into your partner's shoes. See the world through their eyes. What does it look like? And why is it this way? So you have to actively listen to the responses you get from your partner, especially in response to those I statements, right? Honey, I feel unheard. I feel unwelcome in this house. I feel like I'm walking around on eggshells around you. And then actively listen to what they have to say, because it's not just about you showing up and saying, I am here and you better listen to me. No, that's not what I'm saying at all, right? It's about you stating who you are, what you're feeling, where you're coming from, and then seeing what the response is from your partner. That's active listening, that's active communication. That is what's going to help you grow back together because you're both showing up more authentically in your relationship. Now, the same goes for when your partner is doing that, right? If your partner is saying, I feel unheard, I feel unwelcomed, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, well, then you have to actively listen as well in between the lines. Where are they coming from? What are their thoughts and feelings and emotions? Why are they saying these things? Okay? They're not saying it to accuse you of anything. They're saying this because they want you to be part of the solution. Okay, you may be part of the problem, but if they're saying these things, they want you to be a part of the solution. And the only way for you to become a part of the solution is to listen actively and see things through their eyes, from their perspectives, being in their shoes. Okay, the fourth thing that you must do in order to embrace authenticity and show up as your true and authentic self comes back to something I mentioned earlier, and that is you have to let go of perfectionism. Okay, this idealized version of yourself or your relationship, it does not exist. Let go of it. You have to drop that rope. Okay, and that is something, I'll be honest with you, that is not easy to do because, again, of all these external societal pressures that show us movies and TV shows and social media posts of these happy couples in these perfect relationships where everything just works out, and even if there is some conflict, it all works out by the end of the show, right? So you have to let go of that perfectionism. That is not reality. That is entertainment. The reality is that life is messy, life is imperfect, we all have flaws, and we have to accept that and embrace that, and maybe even make fun of ourselves for it, right? But we have to accept that and become in tune with it, and really make that part of our authentic self to say, honey, I am not perfect, but I am trying my best. Okay? And on that same vein, you have to be vulnerable with your partner. Okay, you have to share your thoughts and feelings and emotions and maybe even your fears and your desires of what you're trying to get out of life, what you're trying to get out of the relationship, what you're trying to get out of work, maybe, right? How things are with the kids. You have to embrace that vulnerability as well and be open, right? And reveal your deeper inner selves to your partner. Not because you want them to accuse you of anything, not because you want them to make fun of you for anything. No, no, no. You embracing this vulnerability is because you want your partner to be part of the solution. Okay? You're not here to just state a problem. You know, I tell my kids this all the time. If you find a problem and you just complain about it, nothing ever happens. Nothing changes. The problem persists. So why then are you complaining about it? Because it makes you more miserable, right? You become more upset about the problem. But unless you actually start taking action and start doing something about it, there's no point in complaining. And so the same thing is what's happening here. You want your partner to be part of the solution. So when you're vulnerable and you're sharing your thoughts and emotions and feelings with them openly and vulnerable, then you're inviting them to become part of the solution, right? Honey, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around you. What do you mean? Why is that? Right? Where's that coming from? And you're inviting them to have that discussion, to be open in their communication, to embrace that authenticity that you need in the relationship and also what they need from you in that relationship. And it goes both ways, right? Always goes both ways because there's two people in the relationship. Now, you do all those things, and that may not be enough for you. And that's where the Love Forge program comes in. I have built up Love Forge from all the mistakes I have made in my previous relationships. And I can tell you, I've made a lot of mistakes in my previous relationships. And I don't want you to make the same mistakes as I have. There's a reason I've been divorced twice. There's a reason I have more failed relationships than I have successful relationships. But I don't want you to make those same mistakes. Those relationships are so precious. Our human connection is so important in this lifetime. And if you're struggling in your relationship and you think that there's a reason that it can be saved, that it can be rebuilt, that you can rekindle that intimacy, that you can grow back together again, then reach out to me for a free 15-minute intro call to see how I can help you and your partner rebuild that relationship, rebuild it into something better and stronger for both of you, more supportive for both of you. It's a 6-week program. It goes way beyond what marriage counseling ever will do because, like I said before, I work with each of you individually as well as the two of you together. It's a very unique approach that really addresses all the different dimensions of a relationship. each of you individually as well as both of you together. So that's a free 15-minute intro call. The link is in the description below, or just go to my website and click on connect. Anyways, that's all I got for you today. Let me know in the comments below what your thoughts are, what your reactions are, what your mileage has been, what your experience has been. If you have any other thoughts or comments or opinions that you want to share, I want to hear about it in the comments below. As before, make sure you like and subscribe and share this episode with some friends who may benefit from this content. There's lots of relationships out there that are struggling, and it doesn't need to be this way. All right. Until next time, ciao.